Hi, I'm Jeff Gonzalez, president of Trident Concepts, and today I'm here with Brownells Daily Defense to talk to you about less lethal options. So first, let's talk about the force continuum. Now, the force continuum stretches from lethal force to less lethal force to non-lethal force. And a lot of that is going to be dependent on the types of targets that you are forced to deal with. So you could have targets that are shoot targets, which clearly meet the requisite for lethal force. And you can come into targets that are no shoot, which do not meet the requirements for lethal force. But in the middle are the unknowns, and they clearly do not distinguish themselves between the shoot and the no shoots. And these are the types of targets that you have to pay the most attention to and be extremely careful with. These types of targets are also greatly you have a greater way of managing them when you start to employ non-lethal means. So an example of non-lethal means would be these pepper spray items that we have here. So the nice thing about pepper spray is that it's going to give you a couple of options. But as you start to immerse yourself into the pepper spray world, the first thing you want to do is to take into consideration the legal ramifications. In other words, know the law. Is the use of pepper spray in your home state legal? And if it is, great. If it's not, well, it may not be an option for you. And one of the things that I try to get across to people with regards to pepper spray is that it reduces the capacity but not the willingness to fight. So let me say that again. It reduces the capacity but not the willingness to fight. So you have to be careful. You have to recognize that even though pepper spray is a very viable option for you, it's not necessarily going to give you the perfect outcome. And there's a lot of reasons behind that. So one of the things that could be behind that is the usage range. This is an area weapon, but it's got to be a close range weapon. So if you're too far away, you may or may not get a sufficient dosage directed at the primary target zones to get the response that you're looking for. The other thing that you need to keep in mind is that you also may not be able to dispense the spray in the best pattern to achieve the outcome that you're looking for. Then there is the real possibility that the target may not be as affected even from a good dosage of the pepper spray. So the bottom line is that you need to keep these in mind because you don't want to be surprised when you don't get the outcome that you're looking for. Now, one of the other things that I try to talk about is the importance behind understanding cross-contamination. In the employment of this pepper spray, it is possible that you accidentally could become cross-contaminated, meaning that while you're trying to dispense it against a target, you take in some of the irritants. And why that's important that you recognize is that you probably need to be familiar with the effects of this pepper spray so that if you do become cross-contaminated, you are not as affected as much or you're not surprised by the effects. Now, one of the things that we talk about is, in using these products, you probably also need to understand some basics as far as decontamination is concerned. Yes, it's nice that you go out and you maybe test this, maybe you expose yourself to it, maybe you just try to get familiar with how this works. And after you're done, you're probably going to want to make sure that you go through a good decon. And there's two big things that you want to do. Number one, you want to remove the oil and particles from your face, from your body, from your clothings, and then you're going to want to wash off the remaining using some form of mild detergent, some sort of soap and water. So they're kind of two separate parts. One is removing the residual oil left over, and then two is washing. Now understand, if you took a good dose, you're probably going to feel the irritant for quite some time. And my recommendation is, it's uncomfortable, it's painful, but after you've deconned a little bit, it will eventually dissipate. The next thing that I talk about is to be familiar with the expiration dates because these things are pressurized and so they will have a shelf life. And so you want to make sure that you're familiar with that shelf life and that you're using them appropriately up to that shelf life. The last thing is the storage of these items. Now, we're going to talk in another video about how to employ them and from where, but one of the things that I kind of discourage is just throwing them in pouches or not pockets, but pouches and bags and things like that, because number one, they're hard to get to, but number two, they could accidentally be released in those types of environments. And when it comes to the actual storage when not in use, it's an aerosol container, so that means that you need to be mindful about putting it in extreme heat, extreme cold conditions. As long as you can do that, these will last you for quite some bit. One of the things that I also recommend is that you periodically take the canister and you vigorously shake it for a couple of seconds. That'll help to ensure that it's all the particulates are spread out within the aerosol itself, and that way you have a better distribution through the use. So we're going to get into the nuts and bolts of how to choose and use pepper spray, but this was just to kind of give you a beginning taste, no pun intended, of pepper spray and how to use them. So if you have questions or comments, please feel free to post them down below. If you find yourself in a state that doesn't allow for pepper spray, please feel free to post that down below. We'd love to know that. All right, until then, I'm Jeff Gonzalez. Take care and stay safe.